guys, and welcome to another edition of Convention Confessional. My name is Katy Hunt, and I am your host through the good, the bad, the ugly, some of the best convention stories I've heard so far from some great friends who have come on the show. And here we are adding on to the trilogy, saga, whatever we want to call this adventure we're going through. Today I am welcoming Dave. Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Hello, everybody out there.
Yeah, right. Hi, everybody. Doing good, doing what we can, right? Like, things are supposedly getting better in the world, so
That's my understanding. Yeah,
yeah, right. From what I've heard.
what I've heard.
Well, our mutual friend Patrick lured you over here
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with his prompts on his Facebook. He was also on the show several episodes back now, and he told me that you have quite the tale or tales to share, and I'm very excited to hear about them.
When he posted that, I was like, "Oh, no one wants to hear me talk about this stuff." And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I could maybe they will. This is like a dare, like maybe they'll want me to talk about how terrible the worst costume contest in the history of the world. Maybe they'll want me to talk about that.
I mean, I'm here for it.
That's a big
I'm ready.
setup. I'm sure there've been worse, but
I don't know yet because I haven't heard your story. I mean, I've hosted a few that have gone south pretty quick, but I mean, I've heard this is pretty bad, so I'm excited.
Okay. Well, how much do you know about Anime Weekend Atlanta?
I know it's in Atlanta, and I know it's on a
There you go.
weekend.
See, exactly. That's what I like about that name. It's like it's everything you need to know right in the name.
Right, just clear as day.
Yeah, but I'm one of the founders. Back in 1995, we started AWA because we had an anime club, and we knew that if we didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it, and we couldn't stand for that. We were like,
Right,
no
no, of
way,
course not.
we have to do this.
Right.
So we knew we had to have a costume contest because every convention has a costume contest, and we really didn't have anybody that wanted to MC it. So I wound up MCing it.
Okay.
For the first 5 years.
Sure.
And I'm not a costumer. I've never cosplayed. I don't know that much about it. But, I was the only one that wanted to stand up on stage and introduce people. So it sort of devolved to me.
Sure.
And the first year, I think we had 15 contestants.
Okay.
And everybody seemed to have a good time.
Yeah.
And the convention, as you know, anime conventions sort of got really popular pretty quickly. So we went from a 300-person convention to a 600-person convention to a 1,200-person convention. And by the time we had our fifth year, and this is 1999, we had moved hotels 3 times. So we were in a new facility way up on the north end of town in Gwinnett County.
Sure.
If you know where Gwinnett County is.
Yeah.
Which honestly, we thought was going to be big enough for us, and it wound up being too small for us.
Oh, no.
Well, we ran out of program books. I had to go back to my job, which was at a printing company, and print more program books on Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
Which was kind of nutty and probably a bad decision in the long run, but whatever. And we wound up, it's Saturday night. It's time for the costume contest. And so we had... I want to say 40 different groups of entrants.
Okay.
We had a room jam-packed full of people. We had judges. We had, it was being simulcast to the video room. So it was kind of like the entire convention shuts down so that we can do the costume contest. That's how important it was perceived as,
Okay.
like
yep.
people, when we started the convention, my idea was, we'll have a costume event, but why do we have to judge this? Why don't we just, everybody's a winner. Here, you all get ribbons. You're all winners. Come on, guys. Like, there's this weird human being need to judge and be judged that I don't really think is helpful or necessary in this sort of context. But people were like, no, we have to do all this nonsense. We have to do it.
Right. The hardcores.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, So picture this. It's 8:00 in the evening. It's Saturday night in the middle of a really crowded anime convention. We've already had a group of people who took over an unused function room and started running a rave.
Oh.
Like unbeknownst to anybody involved with the convention. They just found a room and took it over.
Well.
Which I admire their spunk, but hey guys, no thanks.
Right. No, thank you.
So,
So
I'm
it's
trying to
already
cast
anarchy.
it's getting a little anarchic, yeah.
Yeah.
The hall is actually too crowded. The entire place is too crowded,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Mm-hmm.
We were I don't know why we went with this place. We should have just gone for a larger space, but they really wanted our business. They were. Oh, the elevator had already broken down by this point.
Oh, jeez.
One of the elevators had broken, I believe.
No, no.
So already, and I'm not going to say there was a lot of drinking going on, but there was some drinking going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, like by like the upper level staff, the judges, the whole
Oh,
nine
yeah,
yards.
no, because they've already given
So
up. Yeah, great.
so basically, what happened was it was, and we were doing skits at the time, cosplay contest skits,
Right. Yeah.
and this is generally terrible. What happens is a couple of guys in foam hair wander out and flap their arms around, pretending like they're shooting magical force beams at each other.
Sure.
And this is charming when 8-year-olds do it, but when
Hmm.
28-year-olds do it, it's a little depressing.
Yeah.
So I was not a big fan of skits to begin with.
Hmm.
So our first contestant was a group of people that did a Rose of Versailles cosplay,
Hmm.
and these were really good costumes. They were historically accurate. The seamstress spent a lot of time on them. There was a joke at the end involving Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street. Nobody knew what Rose of Versailles was
Okay.
because it's 1999.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, no one in America knows what this manga classic is,
Hmm.
which was just infuriating to me. So that went over like a wet balloon. And
Oh,
as the night went on, I would be handed a note card with an unpronounceable Japanese name on it,
my
written
favorite.
in written in like the terrible penmanship, the worst handwriting you can possibly read. And I would try to read what this contestant was, or who these contestants were portraying. And then my brother, who was working event staff, would come out and take that note card away from me because that group of contestants has swapped their place with another group of contestants. So now we had another group of contestants that I had to
Ah.
announce. This went on and on and on and on.
Oh God.
So pretty much every, like, number 1 was actually number 6, number 5 was actually number 8, number 13 was actually number 14. They all had names like Near Nine Halton von Auschka, whatever.
The 17th. Yes.
So the audience started to get restive, and there was a lot of heckling going on from both the audience and the judges and the podium, which was myself. Um, the skits were incoherent and terrible. The night just went on, and I was 3 hours long
Oh wow. Three
because,
hours.
yeah, because the contestants simply could not get their shit together. And like, go out on stage, show your costume off, and you're done. Thank you. But no, no,
Right.
no. They had a captive audience for their little amateur theatricals that they were
Mm-hmm.
going to ram down everybody's throat, whether the crowd liked it or not. And the crowd did not like it.
They did not.
Did not like it. I want to say we awarded best contest to like a 10-year-old girl.
Oh,
Yeah. The audience choice for the best costume, or the audience choice period, went to my brother because he came out on stage so often to tell me of a change. He was not wearing a costume.
no.
That's how the audience felt
What
about.
are you talking about? He was dressed like a disgruntled employee.
Yeah. It's like that's a good costume, I suppose. Yeah.
Right. Right. Simple.
Yeah. So
So
it was
so a 10-year-old girl won the costume contest.
That's my recollection. I'd have to look. Actually, the whole thing is on. We have a video of the whole thing. That is just a nightmare to watch.
Wow.
It's just really sad.
Wow.
So basically, what happened after this event was I said to the events director and the rest of the administration, I am not going to be involved in the costume contest anymore. I don't care what you do with it. I won't be there. I will be in the hot tub.
Right.
And I have not. That's 1999. So what is it? 2021. So it's been 22 years. I have not been to a costume contest.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
I have
understand why.
avoided them 100% entirely.
Yeah. That is. Wow. Yeah. That is.
So the I want to say the fallout from this was at the time I was writing a column for Athens, Georgia-based sort of entertainment and local news website about, anime and manga. That's what I
Hmm.
was writing about. And I wrote a column about how this terrible experience.
Hmm.
And I think I entitled it "Cosplay Contests Must Be Destroyed," which was it's a little trollish, but whatever. I had an idea. I had these were my legitimate feelings about the
Right.
issue.
Right.
And that basically what happened was I got branded as this anti-cosplay activist,
Oh.
and AWA got branded as like they hate the costume contest, or they hate cosplayers, or they hate, you name it, they hate it,
I hate it. It's the
which
worst.
is not true at all. I mean, we had a costume contest the very next year. We just didn't have skits.
Sure.
We're like, we're done with skits. You're not going to do skits. You're going to come out. You're going to show your costume, and you're done.
Right. You kind of went
And
like Emerald City, where it's like this is basically a walk on. You show your costume off and you leave.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And over the years, several different groups of people who really wanted to do skits have come to the convention and said, we'd really like to do skits. Can we do a skit event? And the convention is like, sure, great. Here's the time. Here's the space. It's all yours. Do it.
Hmm.
And these people can never get their shit together enough. They can't recruit skit contestants. They can't arrange a schedule. They can't. They just there's something about it. I believe at its core, it does not attract people that have the ability to arrange or organize events. That's
Right.
my theory.
Right. It sounds cursed. It's just like one of those
It's
things where it's like
cursed.
it can't happen, guys. Clearly, the universe is trying to tell you something.
Yeah, and in the 20 plus years since then, there are more costumes than ever.
Hmm.
People are having more fun wearing costumes. People are, if you look at any convention photo, but certainly AWA is jam packed full of we the atrium of the Waverly Hotel is like you can't walk through it because it's full of people in costume chatting, taking pictures of each other, getting together in little groups to take pictures and having a really good time. And I think they're having way more fun doing that than they would do standing on a stage pretending to fire magical force beams at each other
I mean, yeah, possibly.
or trying to.
Whatever gets people through the day, honestly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I've worked like I said, I've done several conventions hosting myself. Actually, I have a whole episode planned eventually to talk about my hosting experiences, but I feel like I need to make you feel better in some way. The first convention that I worked at, that I hosted at, was kind of like a throwaway thing where I just gone for the weekend to be with my friends because it was like the first year of the convention.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were like, "Well, can you help us with masquerade?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." Like I wasn't on staff or anything. And eventually as the weekend progressed, became staff with a badge being tossed to me going, "You're staff now." And I'm like, "Okay.
Yep. I know
Okay.
how that goes.
Right, right." Yeah, typical. And come the masquerade, you're just like, oh my gosh, am I actually going to go up there and do this? Like, I don't know if like I'm the person that can do this. Everything went off really well. However, it went off really well about halfway through the masquerade because the girl that was in charge of masquerade at the time wanted to be the MC.
Yep.
And she, as nicely as I can put it, should not have been an MC.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a
Like,
skill to it.
like
Some
yeah,
people
it's just
should.
like there's a personality to it, there's like a timing to it, like you have to keep people engaged.
Yeah.
And she got to a point of frustration where I guess I was overshadowing her. And she proceeded to throw a shoe at me.
So you're George Bush.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's exactly how I tell the story. I'm like, you want to know what me and George Bush have in common? I've had a shoe thrown at me. And she like storms off stage, and I proceed to have to do the masquerade by myself because she refuses to come back on stage with me after that.
Wow.
And it's like, and the
Okay.
thing is, like, I've looked back, I've talked to people, and I'm like, did I do something offensive? They're like, no, you're just funny. I was like, oh, my bad.
There's like a degree of prep that goes into a good stage performance.
Yeah.
There's like a rehearsal, and there's like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. And we don't know this when we go into conventions. We have no idea what we're doing. We're sort of
Right.
making this up as we go along.
Right. Oh yeah. Like, and like I said, like I literally walked into that like not knowing what the hell was going to happen. It ended up being a really good show. Like the end of it was great. Like everything ran relatively smoothly for a first year convention, which was very surprising.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but then that's how I got asked back, and from that point on, I basically like I'd have a co-host every once in a while that was another staff member, but we would talk it out ahead of time, be like, "Hey, let's not throw apparel at each other if we get mad."
I think that the high point of anything I ever did on stage at a convention, I had some boxes left over from the Japanese grocery store. And I walked up and I'm like, well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this great convention all about Japanese cartons. And I know you're all big fans of Japanese cartons. And here's our first Japanese carton. And, I love a cheesy prop joke. I cannot resist. But yeah. And there's people that are really good at emceeing live events. And God bless them. They're wonderful people. I'm not one of those people.
Oh well, I mean, no, I'm like you said, like there's all different levels of hosting it too. Because back when Anime Boston was really going, it's like they had their host behind the podium, like you were at
Yeah.
AWA, and it was like I'm at this podium, I'm going to announce stuff, and then I'm leaving, and I don't know like when. It must have been like probably when Uncle Yo took over. I
Hmm.
think he pretty much kind of was just like, no, like I said, everyone's got a different style. Everyone's got a thing that works for them. And his was a moving around the stage thing. And I am personally one of those hosts as well. Like, I can't just stand at a microphone and be like, our next skit. It's like, I have to be moving. Like, I feel like I have like a deeper connection somehow,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah. Well, it's
moving around.
boring.
It's like, I'm not stuck in
Standing
one
behind a
spot.
podium is pretty boring. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
it's just like,
I do opening ceremonies at AWA every year still, and what I do is I throw out candy. It's
yeah,
Halloween. I have a bunch of Halloween candy. I throw it out, and I get to
love
move around the
me.
stage and hit hit the cameras with and the lights with candy and stuff, and hit people in the head. And it's fun. It's as you say, you're moving around the stage. You're not static.
Right. Right. You also feel like you can escape faster.
Mhm.
Like,
Very
I'm not
true.
stuck
Very
here. See
true.
ya. Oh yeah, no. Like I said, like I did again, AAC in New Hampshire for many, many years. Connecticut, I got picked up from AAC to come to Connecticut to help them with their masquerades and their dating games and things. And just recently, I started hosting at Anime Boston, and that one was terrifying. Um, well, because I mean, like Connecticut's a big convention, like to a point, but like their masquerade isn't like it's a big event, but it's not like during the weekend because it could be an event at another hotel or this hotel or at the movie
That's
theater
much
across the street.
larger. Honestly, that's huge.
I
Yeah, that's
know,
a
I
really
know.
good size.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's like back when I was working it was that big. I don't know if they're in that large of a range anymore, but they're definitely within like the 20 to 25. Like,
I feel like we found out with fan conventions over the last couple of decades. People love going to fan conventions.
mm,
Like they just love the experience. These are like the music festivals. Like our parents or our grandparents would go to Woodstock or Altamont or whatever. There would be these big pop festivals every summer that people would go to. And I think fan conventions have just replaced those. Well, they still have music festivals, yeah,
yeah.
but fan conventions are the music festivals for, or at least filling part of that niche.
Mhm.
And in fact, if you have like Anime Central has a big rave component to their show, and it's practically almost a music festival in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And we didn't sign up for this. Like we were like, no, we just want to show cartoons to people and dress up like cartoon characters. We
Right.
just want to build model kits. We don't know what's going on. What's
Right.
happening?
Why? Why? Why?
Yeah, why? What's this
Why?
can't be this popular. There's no way this can be this popular. But it
Uh,
is.
yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, so it's like it's a ballroom inside of a convention center at Connecticut, so you maybe get like maybe 2,000 people. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and that room's never full. Like, cause but the problem is too is because there's so many fire codes at that convention center that we've had problems with, which again will come up at another time.
Yep.
Um, it's just like the room's never full because people just kind of like give up.
Yep.
Like they'll
Yep.
wander in after they've given up on like seating people, kind of thing. But Anime Boston, Mike Lee told me is like a 3,000 person room,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
it's pretty
full.
big.
Like we do not start until that room is like capped.
I feel like Anime Boston, like there's all that. I don't want to use the phrase security theater lightly because it's kind of an annoying term, but there's a lot of security theater to get into. What is it, the Heinz Center?
Yeah, yep,
So once you're in, you don't want to go back out.
right,
Like, I went through all this trouble to get in. I'm
right.
staying in.
Oh yeah, so many years before I worked it. Like, thankfully, I have a lot of friends on staff.
Yeah.
And I would
Well,
do
that
like I would
helps.
be judging for the events before I actually started working the convention. But you mean you go outside because you're like, I don't want to eat from the food court. Like, I'd like to go out to have lunch and like get a decent meal once today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh no, now I have to get back inside. Oh look, three of my friends are smoking right now. They have staff badges, and they just drag you back in with them. You're like, hi, I'm
Yeah.
here.
It's tough. It's tough. It's a, that's a real, I feel like the closer you get to downtown, the stricter everybody is with fire codes and getting the union to set things up, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't
Mm-hmm.
come in here. And I kind of like things like you get out into the suburbs, you can be a little looser.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh yeah.
know.
100%. I agree. I mean, like, I get it, and I respect it. It's like everybody just wants to keep everybody safe.
Oh yeah,
Totally
yeah.
understand it, but oh my god, when
The
you're at
older
that
you
many
get,
people.
the more you're like, oh, that's why they have that rule.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's why we don't do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that, yeah.
No, speaking of rules, I do have another con horror story
Oh, I'm excited. Okay.
that is not cosplay related, but is 9/11 related.
Oh boy.
Actually, this was 2 years later. AWA happens in the fall, happens in September
Yep.
or October. That October September Halloweeny,
Hmm.
that time frame.
Sure, sure.
And our 2001 convention happened 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yep.
So there was about a week where we were not sure whether we were going to have a convention or not.
Right.
And we had some guests cancel. We had to refund a few memberships, but for the most part, people came to the con. We didn't. I think our membership stayed. Our 2000 numbers and our 2001 attendee numbers were more or less equal, but everybody was a little emotionally fragile. Everyone
Yeah.
was a little on edge. A little freaked out. So I do an event called Anime Hell that I've done at AWA ever since the third AWA,
Hmm.
and it's one of these fill the main events room show crazy. That's why I was at Anime Boston. I was filling in for Mike Toole because he does Anime Hell at Anime Boston. So I was filling in for Mike Toole.
Okay.
Um, anyway, so I did Anime Hell at Anime Week in Atlanta 2001. We're filling the main events room at the Georgia International Convention Center, which is way down. Like, we went from being way north of the city in Gwinnett County to south of the city down by the airport, which is, if you want to talk about convention centers that are uh, surrounded by pine trees, that's one of those. It was like there was nothing around. There was a Ruby Tuesdays across the street.
Right.
That was it.
Sure.
Actually, the fun fact: the hotel and the convention center are both closed,
Oh.
and they use it. I'm not sure what they intend to do with it long term, but in the recent past, they've used it to film movies. So part of the Avengers movies were filmed
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like the
in this
Marriott and
facility.
stuff down there too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got the big ceilings. You can rig up all the green screen stuff you need to. That kind of thing.
Yeah, actually,
So anyway,
I think they filmed there for the new Loki show too. Like every time like I see something for it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the Marriott in downtown.
yeah, well, that Marriott downtown is a wonderful hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a John Portman big atrium hotel. It's beautiful. They had the World Science Fiction Convention was there when I was in high school,
Oh, neat.
and that was wonderful to go to.
Mm.
Mainly because no, I paid to get into that one. There was another World Con we kind of social engineered our way into,
Haha.
which I guess is another story. But anyway, so I do Anime Hell, which is a crazy clip show that goes on for 3 hours, starting late Friday night, and it became like a Friday night thing, and then the costume contest would be a big Saturday night event. So you'd have something big happening every night. So I started around 10 o'clock, and I'd been drinking, and my friends had been drinking, and there was some drinking going on. I'll just say, and back in 2001, the event. It's a clip show, and this is before we had digital video files of any kind. So I had a table full of VHS tapes and two VHS decks.
Mm-hmm.
and a splitter, and I would put a tape in and run that clip, and then switch it to another VHS deck and run that clip. And I had a microphone, so I was delivering commentary on the clips. And it's all way too involved to do when you're hammered, but I was doing it anyway. And people seemed to like it. People enjoyed it. I don't know. It filled the main events room.
Right.
I can't explain that.
Sure.
But one friend of mine brought down an entire case of beer, like 24, a flat, a 2-4 as they call it up here. And now there's no way we're going to be drinking this entire 2-4 of beer in 3 hours. I don't care how much you drink, that we're not doing it.
Right.
So it's after midnight. The event is wrapped up. We're done. We have got to pack all our stuff up and head back up to our hotel room, including, and like, oh no, we have 24 bottles of beer. We can't just leave these here. We've got to take these back to the room. This is beer. This is like, it's a lot of money.
Right.
So, and it's actually not, because it was super cheap beer. But anyway,
but it was because you wanted it to be.
So the whole time I've been doing Anime Hell. I've been standing up on the tech table. The tech is all on a little riser above, the crowd.
Sure.
Hollering into a microphone at crazy video clips. And there's been a security guard that's been watching me the whole time. Like a convention center security guard.
Sure.
Just, who is this guy? What the hell is he doing?
Okay.
So we're leaving. We're packing up all our stuff, and we're leaving. And there's like a whole little crowd of us going. We have to go outside onto the sidewalk and around and get in a hotel. So one of the people in our party drops one of these beers, and it shatters on the sidewalk. And that is all that cop needs. And he's like, shoo, right in on us. Stop. What are you doing? This is illegal. You cannot have open containers outside in this area. You cannot be drinking alcohol in the convention center. This is awful. You are, this is against, it is Clayton County. Sorry, that's the county we were in. Clayton. Mm-hmm. This is a Clayton County police officer, by the way.
Okay.
So he's going to arrest us. He's like, yeah, we might need to, take steps here. And luckily for me, our rep, the rep from the convention center, who the convention dealt with, happened to be walking past, happened to see me, who like, oh, this is the person from the convention that we contracted with getting arrested. Maybe I should talk to this officer. So we wound up not getting arrested, which is good. But the guy made us dump all the beer down the drain.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is really juvenile. I mean, we're all adults here. There's nobody 16-year-old is drinking here. But so he watched us not just throw it away, not just throw it in the trash can, but open each bottle and pour it down the drain in the gutter.
Wow.
And then and only then were we allowed to go back to our hotel room.
Womp womp. And buy more beer.
And the guy, well, like I went to the friend of mine who brought this case of beer down and then vanished. Didn't take it back with him. I'm like, yeah, buddy, thanks for leaving this, dropping this case of beer on us and then vanishing.
Right.
So.
Wow.
And I believe that was around the time I'm like, you know what? I should probably cut back on my drinking while I'm doing these events.
Somewhere in between pouring that 5th bottle down the drain. I was
yeah. And we moved from that facility. The next year, they're like, well, it's we're going to be closing this facility down. We're building an enormous new facility across the highway. We'd love to have you come to this new facility. We don't have a hotel there yet, but we'll have shuttle buses. We're like, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
You have to have, you want the convention center space, and then you want a hotel where you can have late night panels and events and parties and things. So.
Right. Wow. Awesome.
That's key. So don't drink and run a con. That's my advice.
Yeah, seriously. I've ran into a couple of those situations too.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And it's, if you, I don't want to say binge drinking is a problem, but there's a lot of people for whom binge drinking at conventions was a problem.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, like no names, no specific conventions, But like, you walk into panels and people are just like sitting there with solo cups, and you're
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, water," and they're like, "Nah, I'm gonna take an afternoon." You're like, "Oh, cool."
If it's 10 o'clock at night, maybe you can do that, but
Sure.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, no, don't,
No,
no,
no, no. Like
no.
first thing in the morning, no,
Oh my God, yeah,
no.
no, dude, you have a problem.
Yeah, it's like, no, no, we're
That's a
not doing
problem.
mimosas. This is not a brunch chat. Like we're.
Jeez. Well, part of the problem is that hotels and convention centers, they really want to push that food and bev,
Mm-hmm.
the whole service industry. So they'll be like, well, we could set up a cash bar here, or we could, and this kind of, it's not like a horror story, but I know that when we're talking about trying to change behavior of attendees, part of how you do it is you give the attendees, if the attendees are they're causing trouble, there's vandalism, there's mischief, there's, people wandering around, taking pulls out of giant bottles on the floor. You have to give these people something to do,
Right.
or they will find something to do.
Right. It's like little kids.
It's
It's just like, you're getting into everything. How about you
exactly.
get a coloring book?
Exactly. So a lot of conventions like AWA would say, well, we're going to have a social event happening late at night, and it's cash bar, and if you're, it's a meet and greet singles mixer. Come on in, have a drink, meet somebody,
Hmm.
and that worked out really well. That actually sold a lot of. They ran out of drinks,
Wow.
and it's in a controlled environment,
Right, right.
which
Because
is
people
good.
are there watching, babysitting, making sure everybody's behaving themselves.
And one of the things I really, I came up here to Toronto and I had never been to a Canadian convention. And Anime North has a hotel, and then there's a road, and then there's the convention center on the other side of this road. And the convention center has a big parking lot and a lawn, kind of a grass verge, which is perfect for people to congregate and cosplay and take pictures and socialize. They have an outdoor dance. They have food trucks show up. It's almost like a carnival, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about Anime North. Is, I mean, it would be taking place next weekend if things were normal,
Sure.
and this is right around when the weather gets nice.
Hmm.
Like we've had the first couple of really nice weekends. So everyone's really happy to get out of the house and to be able to get a little sunshine and to be outside and see their friends. And that's what makes Anime North so tough to miss. It's this, oh, summer's here, thank goodness, we survived another winter.
We did it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's when the people start emerging with those like ridiculously huge, amazing costumes because all they've done is sew through the
yeah.
winter.
They've worked on it all year. Now they can take it, and they've got the space to really show it off.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they're not going to be
absolutely.
crowded into a corridor, in a convention center.
Oh yeah.
Which is another pet peeve of mine, is people stopping in the hallways to take pictures,
Oh my gosh, yeah, no.
blocking the halls.
Back when I was doing like more costuming, like costume contest phase of my life, we got pictures taken, but we would, as a group, if we were all together, be like, no, no, can we go over here so we're not in everybody's way? Like we'd like take people with us to be like go to like a dark corner and be like, okay, now we're good. Like no one's in the
Exactly,
hallway.
exactly.
Just like
Another. And speaking of that, in that 1999 cosplay, there was a lot of heckling going on,
yeah,
both from the guests, from the judges, and from the audience,
hmm.
and that became, and it's terrible. Don't do it. Please
Like
don't
from
do
the
it.
judges.
Yeah, there was a little. Yeah, there was a
What?
little back talk. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Everybody was, these were terrible. They were terrible. They were awful.
Oh my
But
god.
part of the issue that was happening up here,
Yeah, yeah.
both Fan Expo and Anime North, the audience in the costume contest, they were doing some heckling, and it was getting a little ugly. So the people running both the costume contests at both shows got together and said, we need to put a stop to this. How do we do it? And how they did it, they sort of created a little whisper campaign, and they would go into, when there was a fandom event happening, they would go into these spaces and just sort of have these conversations like, wow, did you hear about that heckling that was going on? Yeah, it was really terrible. People shouldn't do that. Yeah, that's not cool at all. And they did this long enough and loud enough, people would start heckling, and their neighbors would say, hey, cut it out, man.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
public, it's like peer pressure for good.
oh, there you go. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, you shouldn't have to do it, but I don't
Wow.
know.
Wow. No. I gotta say that's probably like, again, worked a few conventions. Like, I've got to say, I don't think I've ever had heckling problem.
We were I went to Project Acon in Dallas for their first 10 Project Acons, and there was a little bit of heckling going on at those early costume contests.
Wow.
But it was mostly people. They weren't trying to be mean. If they had something funny to say, they'd say it loudly.
Right, right.
More
I mean, like I
riffing.
said, like
More
they're like the
riffing.
funny kind of things, but like,
Yeah.
wow, mean.
Well, the problem with that is that like the first person, and this happens in video rooms too. People will start riffing on the video. The first person is really funny, and the second person is half as funny,
Mm-hmm.
and the third person is half as funny as the second person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's diminishing returns on your heckling.
And the fourth person is drunk.
Yeah. And then the first person is like, "Oh, I can top that," So it gets pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah. That's usually hecklers, unfortunately. Very rarely do you have one that can hold their own.
It's honestly, it used to be really bad back when, and this is going to date me, but we were screening a lot of titles that were not subtitled or dubbed.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be sitting in a room for 90 minutes watching something in total Japanese with no context whatsoever. And it's really hard to stop people from talking in that
Well, yeah,
situation.
I mean,
It's very difficult.
you sit there, you kind of make up your own storyline. Like, I think that person likes that person, but they're beating
Yes.
that person up.
Used to be there would be one guy in the front of the room who had read the synopsis who would be the anime whisperer, and he would like explain, this is Kodai, he's the captain of the Yamato,
Oh.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, just like everyone's taking notes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Which is terrible, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after a while the guy would be like, well, here he's going through the door. It's like, thank you. We
Yes,
can
I
see
didn't need a
that.
subtitle for that.
We
Thank
did
you.
not need it. Yeah.
It's kind of like the subtitles. Oh my gosh, nothing that really has to do with convention. Like the subtitles at a Twilight movie. My sister got stuck at one that was like a closed caption for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And every time that Bella had her mouth open breathing, it would just say heavy breathing.
Heavy breathing.
I'm like, yeah,
Ominous music.
yeah, like I get it. I get it. She's definitely a mouth breather. Thank you.
Well, it's for the hearing impaired, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
they
mean,
could
hey,
not hear that heavy breathing. They need to. It's an aspect of the film that needs to be
it's
expressed.
quite important. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Dave. This was very fun. Definitely made me feel better about some of my own hosting experiences. Let me tell you.
It's a difficult job. Not everyone's suited for it.
Yeah, but you know what? We all make it through it somehow. Like, not all conventions are the same, and not all events are the same. Hopefully,
My advice is props and candy.
props candy.
Those are my or also having a ringer in the audience. That's definitely you want that.
Yep, you're one guy in the chair. Where are you?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you'd like to promote while you're here, sir?
Yeah, I have a blog where I write about classic anime. That's called let'sanime.blogspot.com, and it's everything from 1960 to 1995 or so.
Wow, awesome.
My wife Shane Manook and I draw comics and make fun of stupid comics at mrkitty.org. And you can find me on Twitter at Terrorby Funhouse at Twitter.
Awesome.
All
Well,
one
yeah,
word.
thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully, maybe in the future, if you have any more stories, you'll be willing to come back and share some more.
I'll take notes.
Awesome.
I'll create some new stories.
Right. I mean, hopefully, with conventions coming up, we can have some new stories soon.
I really hope so. I really
Same.
hope so.
Same. All right. Well,
Well,
thanks. Oop.
yeah, stay safe, everybody.
Yeah.
This thing isn't. We're not done with this thing.
No, not yet.
COVID's not
Almost,
done with
but
us yet. Yeah.
we can see the finish line. It's just a matter of running to it, and
Yes.
a lot of people don't run.
Right.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good night.